One is file upload, right? File upload. What are the other vulnerabilities? Server information disclosure. Then okay, attributes missing. This is for allfrommutual.com. File upload is for DVW application. Then other vulnerabilities. What are the other vulnerabilities? Process script stored. This is in the DVW application. Then remote code execution, right? Remote code execution through file upload. Process script is done. What is the last one? Reflected process script, is it? The application is DVW or CSL. So for all these vulnerabilities, you need to work on the reporting part. How many of you have done it? Reply in the chat window. Say yes, done. Only one vulnerability. This is the work which we have to do once you get the job. That's it. Very simple. Reporting format, I have shared it already. The same thing you have to follow. So let us move on with some more concepts. OWASP. Today we are going to discuss OWASP, PCI DSS, GDPR, and SANS 25. So these are basically security standards or regulatory standards which are followed by the companies to ensure that their applications are as per the industry standards, as per the industry security standards. The full form of OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. Okay, PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. GDPR, General Data Protection Regulatory. And SANS refers to some institute. They try to publish top 25 vulnerabilities that will be referring to the source code, not to the dynamic security testing. SANS 25 refers to the source code analysis. Let us discuss the first three today. OWASP Top 10, which means that this specific non-profit organization, they try to publish top 10 vulnerabilities across the globe that are happening. And they publish based on the research, based on the security breaches that has happened in the last 2 or 3 years. Based on that, they try to publish. Some of the vulnerabilities will be similar to the vulnerabilities which we have learned so far. Okay. So let us discuss about OWASP Top 10 today. Then if time permits, PCI DSS and GDPR. Very, very important. If you get a job, you get job either on OWASP Top 10 or either on PCI DSS or on GDPR or web security, network security, mobile security. Like this, the job roles will be split. If you want to get a job on PCI DSS or if you want to crack a job on that, you should know some basics of PCI DSS. That's it. That is enough. Along with that, the concepts, whatever we have learned, cyber security concepts we have learned, right? Same thing. Okay. Let us see what are the different vulnerabilities that are there in the OWASP Top 10. Some of the vulnerabilities we would have already covered. So the recent vulnerability list they published in 2021. Earlier to that, they had published in 2017. So whenever they refer OWSP top 10, you need to give a list of vulnerabilities that are there for 2021. OWSP top 10 2021. This link wasp.org, it will have a detailed information about each and every vulnerability. Try to go through that. Okay. This is the table like 2017, what are the different vulnerabilities, and 2021, what are the changes. Especially 3 new vulnerabilities were added. Those are like server-side request forgery, insecure design, and software and data integrity failures. Let us go one after another. Broken access control. The first one is broken access control. It will have the detailed information about its description, how do we prevent remediation, then some of the examples of attack scenarios, and some more reference links. So if you study these links, it will have more information for you. I'll not go through in deep, but I'll try to refer to the labs whichever I have covered for this OWSP top 10. Let me send you this link. Okay, yeah. Broken access control means you are a user and you are trying to access some resources or pages or services which you don't have the permission. What is the vulnerability it is referring to? Authentication issues or authorization issues? Basically, broken access control means it doesn't have the proper access. They don't set the proper permissions for the resources. So all these vulnerabilities comes under authorization issues, broken access control. The next one, cryptographic failures. What is the name itself will refer like, because of these cryptographic failures, we are leaking some data or we are not able to perform proper integrity checks, right? Can you guys give me some example of the vulnerability for cryptographic failure? Think of it. I would have discussed in the last 3-4 days. What is a cryptographic failure? Or we have an application. Think you have an application which is using HTTPS, and I want you to list one example for cryptographic failures. What comes into your mind when you try to refer cryptography? Encryption, hashing, right? So cryptographic failures means list one vulnerability. Anyone? Okay, let me. There is an application, and it is using DES algorithm as a symmetric algorithm for that website. Is it a cryptographic failure or not? We are using older versions of the algorithms, which will lead to the attack, Sweet 32 attack. So those kind of issues comes under cryptographic failures. Okay, the way how you have to remember any kind of these vulnerabilities is the name itself will tell you or give you some hint about the behavior of that vulnerability. Okay, don't read the description for the next vulnerability. I want you to give the answer. The next one is injection attack. Can you guys give me one vulnerability for this injection attack? Don't read the content. Injection attacks. Have we covered any injection attacks? SQL injection, OS command injection, process script, right? That's it. OWSP top 10. Almost all the companies, they expect this OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. Okay. Under injection attacks, we can refer to the lot of vulnerabilities which can, where you try to provide some kind of scripts in the input fields or URL parameters. So what are the recommendations for preventing injection attacks? What are the recommendations for preventing injection attacks? The first one is input filtering. We want to block some of the special characters by using content technology. The second one is server-side validation. Okay. And the third one, depending on the kind of attack, we have some specific ways to prevent that vulnerability. Insecure design. So what is meant by insecure design? Basically, you are trying to develop an application. During the architecture phase, if you don't follow proper designing techniques, it will lead to the security vulnerabilities. So it means that we should have a secure architecture in place, and it has to be implemented in the initial phase of the development life cycle. That's what like insecure design. The vulnerabilities or threats are like not following proper secure implementation will lead to a lot of threats. Okay, that's all about insecure design. Security misconfiguration. Give me one example of security misconfiguration. Anyone? Some of the settings are not set properly. So the vulnerabilities that are related to the response headers cookie attributes will fall under security misconfiguration. Response headers. Give me one example, each one of you. HTTP only cookie not set or not enabled. One vulnerability. Secure flag not enabled. One more. Explain options header absent in the HTTP response headers. Any other attributes? Any other security headers which we have to pay attention? Strict transport security, right? So all these comes under security misconfiguration. Okay, I would expect correct answer for the A6. Can you guys tell me? Vulnerable and outdated components. Give me one example for it. Vulnerable and outdated components. Have we discussed? Yes or no? Using components with known vulnerabilities. Instead of using Windows 10, I use Windows 7. What will happen? By using Windows 7, we know like it is vulnerable to MS-17 010 eternal blue screen of death. Okay, so you know like some of the components are not secured, and if you are using those components or those softwares, definitely it will lead to the exploitation. Right, those kind of issues comes under vulnerable and outdated components. Next one, identification and authentication failures. Give me one example, each one of you, for identification and authentication failures. Authentication failures. One or one is equal to one. What is happening there? Basically, the authentication check is not happening. We are trying to bypass the authentication. One or one is equal to one. Okay. Or OTP bypass. You are getting the OTP, but you are trying to put something like 4 stars and trying to bypass the OTP. That is one more thing. Identification checks. User enumeration. So by providing invalid password, it clearly says your user password is incorrect. Or if you provide invalid username, it says the user doesn't exist. It should not give any kind of hint, okay, that user exists in the database or not. Password complexity, password strength, password history implementations, all these things leads to identification and authentication failures. Software and data integrity failures. What is meant by software and data integrity failures? What is the definition of integrity? When do you say like integrity is compromised? If the attacker is able to modify some data, right, then we say like integrity is compromised. Okay, so basically, there should be some mechanism for us to ensure like integrity is not compromised. Any kind of issues that leads to these integrity failures will come under software and data integrity failures. Like, have you heard of checksum MD5? Anyone? Whenever you download some software, it will have some hash or MD5 than the client side, so that the server will check that MD5 to ensure like you are using the correct software. That's all. So in case if you are not able to implement that, it will lead to this software data and the integrity failures. The next one, security logging and monitoring failures. What does it mean? Anyone who wants to make use of mic and answer this? Let me give you the permissions. Already you guys have the permissions. What is meant by logging and monitoring failures? Already I discussed this vulnerability. No one. So attacker is trying to inject some vulnerability, some kind of payloads, and we are not able to detect it. That will be of no use for us. They are trying to inject some scripts, and it was failing. Those failures has to be logged. Okay. Any kind of suspicious activities within the network or within the application has to be monitored. Give me one example of the tool name which is used for monitoring. Anyone? Monitoring purpose. That is network monitoring. Basically, the infrastructure or the web application monitoring, we use some tools, right? SIEM tools, Splunk, okay, QRadar, Alien Vault. These are some of the tools which are used for monitoring purpose. Event monitoring tools, SOC analyst role. Those things comes under security logging and monitoring failures. The next one is server-side request forgery. This we haven't covered yet, but I'll give some brief overview about this vulnerability. In case if you want to refer to the labs, all of you remember to cover all the vulnerabilities and the labs, it would take another 2 months from now. Already we have finished 2+ months, right? So definitely like it is going to take a lot of time, but I will give you some suggestions which has very clear where you have all the clear details about the each and every vulnerability and the lab. Refer to the Burpsuit Course Figure Labs. They have published around 100+ labs depending on the complexity, easy, moderate, and tough. Just like the way how we have practiced the labs in DVWA, here also they have DVWA we have set up, but when it comes to the Figure labs, they have their web-based practical labs, right? You can see here SQL injection, cross-site scripting. Already we learned cross-site script, but still if you want to practice one more time, each and every lab, click on that link and they give clear details about what is this lab, what is the payload, and solution, what is the solution. So copy paste the following in the first is it is a lab and you don't know the solution, they will give you the solution. Script alert of one. Some of the labs which I have discussed will be already there. Only thing is application might be different. Do you remember script alert of script? And some videos about these vulnerabilities. Community videos means someone would have posted some good videos how to test this using Burpsuit or by manual process. If you want to access the lab, click on access the lab. You need to sign up for this course figure. All of you try to sign up by using your valid Gmail ID and password. Once you create an account, you get to see the labs of 100+ labs. If you are good in this, I'm sure you can crack 15 lakhs package for 3+. Lot of labs are there, cross-site script. I have done only 2 labs, right? Stored and reflected, but they would have displayed with lot of 1 second, guys. Lot of labs, even including the DOM-based cross-site script. Source sync. It is free of cost, no need to pay. Okay. We discussed cross-site script with the image, iframe script with href. Href is for what, anyone? Link. Okay. And some failure conditions also payloads will be there. Like on error, try to show something or try to execute some script like that. So I'm leaving this option to you. You have to prepare. Okay. Because even for me to practice all these labs, it will take definitely 2+ months. Go through these labs and then you'll have a very good exposure on the penetration testing of the web applications. Clickjacking. Okay. DOM-based process script, I just discussed like what is meant by source, what are the payloads, what is meant by sync. Document.cookie. We discussed, right? Yes, no. Course is some concept. We'll discuss it in the next session. XXC attack also, like I'll be providing you the theoretical concept. You need to practice here. Okay. Server side request forgery as well. I'll give you the concept. You have to practice on the website ports figure. Similarly, HTTP request smuggling, OS command injection is done. Server side template injection, very rarely it is asked, but leaving the option to you. Directory traversal attack, // access control vulnerabilities already we discussed. Give last preference for it. Don't spend much time. And my recommendation is try to practice 2 or 3 labs from each vulnerability. Don't keep on practicing, like don't take 1 month for cross-site script all the vulnerabilities, because some will be very tough, expert level. You'll not understand even after 10 days of working on this, right? So try to practice 2 or 3 vulnerabilities of same kind, then move on to the next kind of vulnerability. That's it. So this is all about the OWASP top 10. And the last one is server side request forgery. I'll try to give the theoretical explanation for it. The remaining PCI DSS GDPR also will discuss today. And if you have time, SANS 25 will discuss. With this, we are almost done with web security and network security. Tomorrow, we are going to discuss about API penetration testing. API penetration testing is separate job role where you will be working only on the web services. Okay. Once that is done, on Thursday, we are going to work on different kinds of scanners. If the tool is existing in the laptop, I'll explain you in the tool. If it doesn't exist, I'll explain you in the video. Like Qualys, Nessus we can configure in the Kali Linux. That's okay. And then IBM AppScan. These are licensing tools which will be costing between 20 lakhs to 1 crore. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Let us discuss about server-side request forgery. Try to understand the concept. Even in the interviews also, they will ask you the concepts. They don't ask you any kind of labs. You have your 3-tier architecture. Database server, app server, web server. And there is one more server for storage. Maybe like to store some kind of critical data. One more backend server is there. Along with that, when I say website, it doesn't mean that it will be using only one kind of setup like this. It can have multiple clusters. Cluster means similar kind of servers. Like this. When you get 1,000 requests from the clients, it will be distributed across. Assume like there are a lot of clients here. You send a request like this. Some requests will go to the cluster 1, some requests will go to the cluster 2. The systems are configured like this. So how this diversion or distribution is done? Mobile security I'm going to cover in the next week, 2 classes. So from now onwards, only 2 days of sessions from next week onwards. I'll let you know those timings. You send 1,000 requests per second or 1,000 packets per second. 1,000 requests per second or 1,000 packets per second. These requests will be distributed across these 2 servers. Which one will take care of this distribution? This will be done with the help of some of the front-end servers. So what do you mean by front-end servers? You can configure any kind of server. Basically, this is a real-time things. Don't worry if you're not able to understand much. It is very clear. Okay. Instead of me handling the entire load, I want to distribute the load across multiple servers. To do that, there will be some specific servers. Some of the examples are load balancers. You can configure these load balancers. Means whenever some request comes up, what is the percentage of load that you want to assign it to this cluster 1? C1, and cluster 2, cluster 3. It will not be like exactly like this. It will be like web server 1, web server 2, app server 1, app 2, app 3, app 4, app 5, like that. Database 1, database 2. Entire thing is configured in some of the settings. And the request first hits the load balancer. From load balancer, it will be split to the different servers. Is it clear so far? Concept? Okay, that's fine. So as a user or as an attacker here, the request first hits the load balancer. It will hit the load balancer first. From load balancer, it will hit some of the application server or web server. And then in case if it has a dependency on the storage server, the request goes like this. Now, in case of server side request forgery, what happens is the attacker tries to send some kind of malicious HTTP request. This guy is trying to send some HTTP request to the server, actual server, where he's trying to make this web server to perform some malicious actions. Malicious actions or activities on the backend services. What are the backend services? I gave example of storage. It can be anything. It can be remote code execution or OS command injection or sensitive data disclosure, whatever it is. We are trying to target backend services or servers. How it happens? Here it is a malicious request. The request first I'm trying to send malicious HTTP request, and that web server is performing malicious actions on the backend servers, or it can be some external servers also, right? To perform this malicious actions, you have to send malicious request. This is what server side request forgery. Okay. And in case of client side request forgery, CSRF is one more vulnerability. Do you remember? In CSRF, we are trying to target a single account. The moment the end user clicks on the link, his password gets changed, or some phone number is getting updated, like that. Whereas in case of SSRF, it is not linked to a single account. It is linked to a server, backend servers. Which one has more impact, CSRF or SSRF? Definitely SSRF. The reason is we are trying to target the entire server, not the single account. If the server is compromised, a lot of accounts that are there in the server will get compromised. Simple and straightforward. Next, two more vulnerabilities. You don't get this vulnerabilities list anywhere. Very important ones. HTTP request smuggling. The next one is HTTP response splitting. Request smuggling and response splitting. The name itself will indicate whether what is the area we are trying to target. In case of HTTP request smuggling, are we targeting the HTTP request or HTTP response for performing malicious actions? This is how we have to remember. A lot of concepts, lot of vulnerabilities will be there. You need to remember the answer within the question. HTTP request smuggling. So the way how it works is The problem here is in the request. Attacker will try to send some request to the load balancer. Load balancer, what it does, it will not be continuously sending the request to the web server. Basically, the moment it reaches 5 to 10 requests like that, then all the requests will have some starting tag and ending tag for the request. Okay. Request 1 start, request 1 end, request 2 start, request 2 end. So this kind of sequence is maintained when trying to send this request, HTTP request, to the web server. But in the load balancer, what it does, once it receives 5 requests, I'm just giving you an example, 5 requests, then all those 5 HTTP requests will be forwarded to the web server. Okay, by maintaining that when this request 1 is starting and when this request 1 is ending, start and end for each and every request. But attacker, what he does, the start and end is maintained with the help of 2 headers called content length and transfer encoding. These are like complex vulnerabilities, just theoretical things, transfer encoding. With the help of these 2 request headers, we are trying to manage like which request is sent, which request is received, like that. So assume like I am trying to send 5 requests. In ideal case, I'm sending 5 requests and those 5 requests will hit the web server. But here the attacker, what he does, within these 5 requests, he modifies he tries to inject one request, one HTTP request, which is malicious request. Malicious request in the sense, prior to this, 2 requests are the original ones, and in between, this guy is injecting one malicious request. So he tries to change the starting ending tag of the second request and starting tag of the third request. Like that, the proxy will try to think like, okay, these are genuine requests. Even web server thinks it is a genuine. That's it. They process the custom, the crafted HTTP request, which is sent by the attacker. So basically, we are trying to smuggle or one of the HTTP request. We are trying to do the smuggling. Smuggling in a sense, without knowing the web server, without knowing the proxy, we are interpreting in such a way that we are trying to process one malicious request. That's how this HTTP request smuggling works. Okay. The next one is HTTP response splitting. Response splitting means, in general, the way how HTTP works is, you have a HTTP request and you'll have the corresponding HTTP response, right? Each and every HTTP request will have the corresponding HTTP response. But the attacker, what he does, he tries to put 200 success code in the request itself. Okay. And by using some of the headers called content length is also used here. HTTP response splitting. Content length, he tried to declare something and then he tried to put 200 success code. The response will have, HTTP response will have 200 code. And one more response which is already set, the original response. Basically, we are getting the 2 responses, but the request is only 1. The next sequence or next subsequent request will be the bonus request, where you can try or injecting some more malicious script. Okay, so this is these 2 are little complicated. You have to read it, then only you will be able to understand how exactly this HTTP request smuggling and HTTP response splitting works. This was happening for older frameworks, not for the recent frameworks, but still, like in the interviews, they will be asking sometimes. There's a reason I have covered these concepts. So with this, we are done with OWASP Top 10, SSRF, and some more critical vulnerabilities. Next thing, PCI DSS. Does anyone has any idea where this PCI DSS is used? PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. So you are using a lot of applications which are related to payments. Give me some application which is related to payment, where the financial transactions are involved. Wherever like POS systems, websites, whichever that has financial transactions, right? Payment, online payments, NEFT, or some kind of UPI payments, all those applications has to go through PCI DSS. Are you getting any kind of noise or disturbance? Okay, we'll take it tomorrow then. Okay, some construction has been started here. We'll do it in tomorrow's session. These standards, PCI DSS, GDPR, and one more is there CCPA, which is not much important. More oftenly, PCI DSS and GDPR are asked in the interviews. All these are different job roles again. Today's concept, whatever the vulnerabilities I have covered, very, very important. Go through it. You should be able to explain, at least list all the top 10 vulnerabilities, OWSP top 10. Okay. And whenever you have time, try to practice and finish all these 100 plus labs. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow again. We'll try to finish the sessions by this weekend. Okay. Maybe one day for API testing, one day for vulnerability scanners. That's it. We'll wind up the session on Thursday or Friday, mostly by Thursday. I'll give you some interview questions and answers, interview preparation videos, all those things on Thursday. If required, one day we'll put the session on Friday as well. And I'll be having a break for 10 days before the next batch starts from September 1st. You guys can put the profile from 26th, 27th. Do your revision for 1 week, or you can start the revision from today onwards and put the profile on 27th. I'll be available for the whole day to help you for resume preparation. Okay then. Bye bye. Have a great day. See you guys.